We're in the blocks here at Football Park for round 2 in the SANFL, and last year's premiers Port Adelaide make their inaugural visit to Football Park in season 96. Big punch away on that occasion coming from Schaefer in ruck. He'll share that with Arnold no doubt today. And Port Adelaide, 48-point winners in last year's grand final, absolutely miffed why they weren't playing last week. A marketing nightmare for the SANFL not to include them in round 1. Mead gets the tap to ground, couldn't get a touch, was Saywell. And as you'd expect, Stephen, there's plenty of people right in amongst it.
Yes, Roger Girdham on screen. One of the key men for the Bulldogs, playing in the middle of the ground, 30 years of age, and looking a little frosty on top as well. This is McGowan in the middle. Can't do much with it. Borlase is in there, so too Saywell, who was pretty good last week. Scott Lee, game number 150 for him, gets the first exit really from centre square. Wilson's there, so too Lees. Lees works back, he's pretty reliable, isn't he? Left leg. Just going to give him a wrap, it goes across the line. Joining us in commentary, Alan Stewart. It's a bit rare to see him make a mistake like that.
Yes, a player of his experience, you'd expect him to deliver the ball a little bit better than that.
Schaefer dispatches it wide. This is Cotter, hugging the boundary line, far side. And there's the man again, Brian Lees. Now he looked, as you can see there, the eyes came across the ground to try and switch it. Get a little bit of space. Equally good on the left or the right is Brian Lees. Right up to dead set on centre wing. Terrific mark taken by McKay. Desperately unlucky over the years not to have played in more games. McKay had a look at Mead and Borlase, and the veterans work it out in the midfield. Speaking of old-timers, Roger Delaney and another one, Aaron Smith. Right up inside 50 now. Hodges pushed out? No. Damien Hicks at the back does pretty well. Keeps a play on it. Handballs it back. They're under a bit of pressure back there. Lee dispatches it away, and they're out of danger at least temporarily.
Parada, Hicks and Pyman combined. Just quickly, Alan, that attack on the ball by Scotty Hodges just looked a bit soft to me.
Yeah, Scotty, I don't think he's really got full confidence in his ankle at the moment, and once he overcomes that, I'm pretty sure he'll come good.
Probably shouldn't use the word soft after Graham Corns' descriptions in the paper this morning, but didn't stand up enough. Just let get pushed out, look for the free kick. It's not like Scott. He's usually pretty strong at the footy and will hold his own body weight against most. This is Binky, left footer. Borlase stands aside for Francis. Borlase overlooked for October 1 last year for the grand final. And he wouldn't be happy with that. That's Francis, number 3. Ball up. Mead this time. Close to the boundary line. Number 29 is James Sarwell.
I think that Damien Arnold much better suited in the ruck this week than last week. He looks a little bit more at home in the rucking contest.
He got a thrashing last week at the hands of Keating from Norwood, didn't he? Well, you might not have seen the game.
No, I wasn't at that one.
No, well, he had only 6 touches against, I think Keating had 17 or 18, but just lacked the height. This is Carter, close to the boundary line, and we'll see it out of bounds again.
A couple of physical boys in there. Not unexpected that they should be doing a little pushing and shoving early in this game. Round 2. The action coming from Football Park. Hull is in there. It's a class act, Troy Hull. Port, I'm sure, will be pleased to get him back. That'll be in the back. I should tell you that Flood is playing out of a forward pocket. Wakeland's at full forward. North East has got Wakeland. That's the direction that the ball goes. It's going to be picked off again by Lees. Delaney has Flood, who kicked 5 last week. And here's North East, who, as I mentioned, has Wakeland. A couple of boys lost feet there. Comes out towards grandstand side, up over the top. No, nothing going on Stephen Schwerp. For 26 in there is Curcio. Cook. From right on 49 metres, he's going to get run down, puts it across the face of goals. It goes up towards Wakeland, who takes a leap. But the ball goes across the line.
Yeah, good play there by Central Districts. Jared Cotton gave the ball off nicely, and Cook should probably finish a bit better from there, being a left legger, and a goal on the board early is what they need to gain their confidence.
Arnold. Over the top was Hull. This is Flood. McGowan likes to use it. Inside Girdham, the 30-year-old veteran. One step. And the skipper gets them away with the first goal.
Yes, that created by Ricky McGowan, who's a very good disposal there. You can see here Flood got it out nicely, and McGowan lifts the eyes, cross to the skipper, who was a very good kick at goal. He should spend a little bit more time inside the 50-metre circle.
Looks pretty solid this year, Roger Girdham.
He had a little bit of a later pre-season, which I think after the battering he took last year stood him in good stead for a fresh start.
So just on 5 minutes into the first term, and the Bulldogs get first blood. Kicking with the aid of a little breeze and a confidence booster early. Port Adelaide exit the centre square this time. Lee overran it, so too did Girdham, and so too did Borlase. Tricky old ball that. Ginnivan, never a short step from him, gets it inside half forward. Cotter will be the first one there, an awkward take for him, he does it pretty well. Quick hands. Saywell, the number one clippers through the hair during the week. And Ricky McGowan takes it just short of centre wing. Left leg, pretty dangerous, Rick. Right into the middle, not bad though. This is Pyman. To half forward, Flood's on the run, not quite. Ball carried 50 metres, but it needed 55. Green, beautiful dispatch on the up. Stephen Schwert knew exactly where Wakeland was. Wakeland used the body okay. Schwert has a quick kick and kicks a goal. Well played, the Dogs. 7 minutes in now, in fact 6 minutes in, it's 2-0.
Yeah, Flood made a contest there and the ball came out. Central's players are very quick with their hands here. Swerty got it across to Wakeland. Very important part of the game here for Central, just to start well early, and those two early goals will give the team a lot of confidence.
The Dogs are 12 points, early break against Port in the second game of the season. Port's first. This is Cook out of the centre on the left boot, up towards the 50. Carter lets Delaney come through, and in contemporary terms, a kick to touch.
Central looking like a side at the moment who have played one game, and Port Adelaide yet to get moving, it would seem.
There's no substitute for a hard hit out, and Central's definitely had a hard game against North last week.
Port Adelaide played Glenelg in a trial at Alberton, and Tigers got up there by 10 points. Not that you'd take much from that form. Free kick. Ben Cranage. His kick into the centre of the ground. A searching kick, but might have been better to go on straight down the line. Pyman on the left. And Lees makes pace for a big man, doesn't he? Watch the boundary line come up. Like a Formula One jet for Lee, seeing a boundary line.
Lee showed his experience there. He's been first to the footy on 4 or 5 occasions in this first quarter, and he's taking the initiative away from the Central District forwards.
Yes, I think Central's got a little problem at centre half forward. They're not badly served by either Arnold or Schaefer in the ruck. And Wakeland can do the job up front with Flood, but at centre half forward there's a problem. McKay got it off hands. Hull, silky smooth as always, right in the middle of the ground, and Wilson has a paddock. Second bounce could go 3 or 4. Ran every bit of his 15 metres as he pumped it up there with the left leg. Not a bad reply, is it? Talented little man, Michael Wilson. He gets his first, and 8.5 minutes into the first term, Port bounce back. The Dogs are 2, Port are 1.
One of the things that happens in footy we see a lot is players running and bouncing the footy. And that, whilst it looks very exciting, the important thing is that you must finish, and to full credit to Wilson, his finish after running 40 or 50 metres was exceptional.
So often you can misplace your forwards. 6 points separates the two sides. The Dogs at 8 minutes with a 1-goal lead. Francis works hard. Anderson playing off half forward. Some might have said holding the ball good, and quick kick away. This is Lees again. He won't step aside. Well played Northeast. Tries to give the run to Binky. Francis. Leg speed, have a look at it. On the left, and butchers the footy. Straight into the aluminium.
Well, Neville, the point you made before, if you're going to bounce the footy, you've got to finish the play, and his delivery then was very poor.
So Harada comes inside. He's got a big day today on Smith. This is Ray, Jason Ray. Not bad last week. Through the centre and into full forward. Delaney down, Flood not able, Northeast sweeping, and has players galore. Carter. And couldn't find Borlase. It was Hull, in fact, from the West Coast. Took a, that's Borlase in screen, but Hull took a draft from the Sydney Swans. Nearly went in 94, decided not to, and went back in 95, back to the West Coast.
This is Stephen Carter, halfback. Fairly flamboyant player, took a bit of a risk there. Potter. Dragged to the ground by Mead, won't enjoy that. Craig Potter.
A dangerous play, isn't it, always to go through the centre of the ground like that?
Yeah, kicking across the ground is very dangerous, and a long direct kick to the full forward area is how you should play footy.
Greg Anderson, plenty of experience at Port Adelaide and Essendon. Spoiled away from Darren Smith. They've got tons of experience out there, the Magpies, haven't they? Rowan Smith can't do much with that, and the Bulldogs are happy to see it towards the line.
Stephen, I think that over the last 3 or 4 years, Central Districts, every time they come up against Port Adelaide, you'll always get that edge for Port Adelaide and experience, but you just can't worry about that. You've got to get the experience on the field as quickly as you can.
Schaefer, Girdham, McGowan, quick hands as you'd always expect from him. This is Cotter, puts it up high towards half forward, back of the pack. Mead, he's a talent, Mead, a little underrated I believe in this competition.
Played.
That was Cook, I should say. Swert with some pace. Good block there from McGowan, I think it was. Delaney, merciless attack on the footy. Opportunity now for Saywell. Bluffed out of it, absolutely bluffed out of it. McKay around the corner. Delaney, it's like ping pong. And a floating kick to Lee.
You're quite right, he was bluffed out of it. And Alan, you were talking before about experience. That exhibition from Delaney, I think, just proves the fact that he had time, didn't he?
Well, I think conversely also that Saywell had time to take the footy and do something with it, but he just patted in front of him, and Roger just pushed him out the way.
So a fundamental error. Schaefer tries to back in. He is on the ball. Girdham does well. Just holds it up until the last second. McGowan right up to half forward. They're not having a good time through half forward at the moment, the Bulldogs. They're peppering away. And Lee's northeast and this man Mead just keep bouncing it back like a big rubber band into the middle of the ground. Hull really is a good player. It's so amazing they let him go at the end of last year. Right up to half forward or full forward where Hodges is lurking. Gets a push. Maybe took a dive as well. Borlase working hard back there. Hereda, good touch. Cotter started the game pretty well up towards half forward. Potter can't quite take it. Green can. Sweeping handball to the middle of the ground. Needs some protection from Scott Lee, who runs into his teammate McGowan. Sits it up. Beautiful little chip kick, but it's going to be picked off once more.
Yeah, so disappointing the disposal forward so far. I think Central Districts have had a lot of the footy, and McGowan and Girdham have had important touches, but they haven't finished the play as well as they would have liked.
Mead dispossessed. In a bit of strife too, isn't he? Needs backup. Delaney gave it to him. Wilson on the backward 50. Lees down the ground.
Ooh.
Oh, he's absolutely killed Anderson. And tries to take out Girdham. Yeah, put your hand up, I'll take the free as well. He goes forward over the 50. It's a shocking kick. Oh, you find that very amusing. We'll ask you why in a minute. This is Cotton. Has a look. Turns it around the corner. He wants Flood. Swerts there. Chance. Green. Goal. Good work, the Dogs. His first.
Well, I just thought that Girdham did everything so beautifully. And then when the player was coming at him, he poked it, a little toe poke, and it dribbled off the side of the boot. It just didn't look right, but that looked pretty good.
That looked very good. I think the important thing was there that they had a crummer at the contest. So many times through half forward in this first quarter that Port Adelaide have run the ball out because they haven't had a crummer, but Peter Green rode that ball beautifully.
What about the handball from Lees?
Yes, I wouldn't like to have been Greg Anderson waiting for it.
12 points of difference. 3 plays 1, and we're nearly 15 minutes into the first term. Used to call them hospital balls.
It's just, I'm sure he regretted he's an experienced player and he knows a lot better than that, but having given it, it would have been like a nightmare to watch it go to him.
I think Anderson's pretty sore as well as Stephen Schwert gets up to half forward. They're breaking down through that area. When I say that, I know they're 12 points in front, but the number of entries they're having at the moment, it's bouncing back a few times. Borlase sees it across the line before Potter tries to clean him up. We've got 15.5 minutes gone. Central are 3, Port are 1. Daryl Borlase looks to me at the moment as though he's playing in the middle.
Yes, I think he's playing in the middle, and he'll relish that role.
Schaefer has a height advantage over Mead and has beaten him 4 times in the middle of the ground thus far. This is Cook. Paddles it forward. Here's Mead, whose work around the ground is generally pretty good. Pack situations, the Dogs are winning at the moment. Scott Lee, quick kick forward, and it goes across the line.
I think that Centrals have had a lot of forward movement, but the one line that they're not showing initiative is across that centre half forward line. The Port player generally beats them to the ball.
Forward for the Maggies, or I should say the Dogs. Borlase hassled by Girdham, and the umpire said that he was hassled just a little bit too much. Loves it tough, Roger Girdham. Through the centre. Now that's okay if you can do it like that, but you need to be 200% clean if you're going to go through the centre of the ground. Mead. Short. Well done, Pyman. Green.
Clyde.
Be tough out there at the moment. Borlase, slick hands. Comes towards Carter now. He'll be happy to see the boundary line almost. Just decides to find a few yards and give... who are we looking at there? Wilson, I should say. The run. Caught Schaefer. Beautifully handed out. McGowan to Cotter. Cook and Schwert combined. Now it's inside half forward. There are a chance of Flood can get his hands to it. Good body work from Delaney. Quick hands Mead. Again, Wilson owns the footy at the moment and gives it to Borlase.
Port Adelaide movement, all right. Schaefer's picking up Darren Smith when he was on the back play. What's happened there? Well, he's going to play it 25 metres, but I thought Potter was in his rights because Smith had played on. He's going to give Darren a shot at it, though. It's a generous 25 metres, isn't it? It's more like 40.
Stephen, I think there that Smith didn't move off the line of his mark, and maybe Potter made his movement a bit too quickly.
Sounds fair and reasonable to me. Can't argue with that. From 40 metres, Darren Smith punches the ball beautifully. Costly error. 3 plays 2, 18 minutes into the first term.
I think you'll see here that he didn't really move off the line of his mark. He was virtually stationary, and Potter came in just a little bit late, so I would have to support the umpire's decision.
I might go into debate with you about that, but we haven't got time. It looked like he played on to me.
Two goals clean, plays 3 goals clean. The accurate shooting at the moment. Overcast day at Footy Park. And Central won the toss, and they're kicking to the left of screen. Little breeze, not a lot. Out of the centre come the Dogs. Smith. Parada in his back and over his shoulder. Play to advantage. Anderson has a look. Hicks drops back. He's got the job on Hodges today. Schwert plays on. He's a natural left footer. Comes down the line in front of the grandstand. Lees takes the advantage again. The bounce doesn't suit him though. Normally it's the best thing to do. Green weaves his way inside. He's caught on that occasion. This is Girdham. It was a good tackle by McKay. Another good tackle. That time it was Binky. Good defence, Port Adelaide. A chance now for Schwert. Loose at the back. Lee caught. Tackling's good. Curcio.
Again, I think pressure from both sides is very, very good here. The player with the ball not giving a lot of opportunity to set up his play.
So Darren McKay from centre wing.
Hull is off. Poole is on. You can only assume there's something wrong with Hull because I reckon he started pretty well. This is Ray up over the top. Did some clever things last week against Norwood. Let himself down on a couple of occasions as well, but he's got some talent. Right up towards centre wing. Arnold is being beaten pointlessly at the moment. Well, he's got that one, but that looked a bit dubious. 25 metres. Brian Lees won't be particularly wrapped with all of that since he's started so well. We're 20 minutes in, entering time on. And he's played beautifully, Lees. This is Arnold. Having a bit of a problem through this area. Flood endeavours to get front spot. Girdham's in there working hard. Around the packs, as I say, they're doing pretty well. It comes out the front. Girdham, so too Ginnivan. Schaefer on the back play. Set himself back there pretty well.
Yeah, Schaefer held ground well there, Stephen.
Needs the clippers as well. He might be able to see a bit better. As he lifts the eyes and has a look, there's not much down there. Mead's dropped back on the back play as well. Pokes it up there. Who can get a jump at it? No one in particular. Ginnivan at the front. Number 12 is Cranage. Short pass comes in and McKay started pretty well. Potter, second there, gives away another 25 metres. Umpires are showing a bit of clout at the moment.
Yes, they're keeping control with the whistle. Anderson, little punch. Finds Smith on a lead. He'll move it on quickly. Puts it in high. Pulls there, but Jason Ray doesn't like the attention. At 13 touches last week. 11 and 2. Good left foot kick. Back towards the centre of the ground. Mead, the only one to jump in the end. It's Borlase who crumbs. Ginnivan lifts the eyes and has a look. Into space. It's like Curcio. With him, Smith. Caught. Swert. Is that holding on? No. The umpire says play on. So it's reasonably intense at the moment. No one can get too much running without running into a body. And pretty intense. Second game of the season. Fitness not really an issue at this stage. 22 minutes in, and it's the Dogs by 6 points.
Fair number of players around the ball. Potter, a little undecided. And probably the best thing was to get a quick kick away. Should have taken that, Central District player. It was Cotton. Not a bad piece of work, was it? Squeezed it out to Scott Lee. Can this kick find the mark? Not quite. They're just dropping them a bit short. Hands and knees. A bit like a school ground piece of work, that one, as Mead comes out towards centre wing. This is the problem for Central. As soon as they turn it over, Port fan wide. And then they just run it with ease through the midfield, including old blokes like Delaney up towards full forward. It comes out the back, and that is absolutely critical because Paul's kicked one. When you start to play the game of football, they teach you to keep the ball in front because you've got to play on it. As soon as it goes out the back, you're dead. Squared away, 3 goals apiece.
Alan, even from that, we don't pick it up here. This is Delaney, but nobody ran with Delaney. Nobody went to help Flood.
Exactly right. Flood was on hands and knees down the forward line, and no one ran with Roger Delaney. And if you don't run with the Port Adelaide defence, that's when you get into trouble.
Particularly good effort from Paul, the big man. Started on the bench and has replaced Troy Hull. 3 goals apiece. All tied away at Footy Park. We're into time on. Mead against Schaefer and gets the knock. Cook works hard. Schaefer backs up. Francis can't. A blind kick off the turf. Around the corner. Cotter, but his kick is intercepted by Binky. No one on the mark. Can raffle where he wants to go with it. Puts it in high. McKay couldn't take it. Courageous work by Ginnivan. Head down. Scotty Lee, one of the best for Central last week in their campaign against Nord where they got up. Anderson's caught. You'd expect him to by Girdham. He's pretty tenacious when he gets his mind put to it. Cook, left foot. Bounces in. The crumb is Mead. And he clears it away.
Not sure they can persist with Arnold at centre half forward. It's just not working for them. Lees is cleaning everything up. There's a free kick on the far side. Port Adelaide have wrested the initiative back. And love them or hate them, they just keep on being good. This is McGowan, who's done his best in the middle. Handball's not quite finding the mark at the moment. Put Lee under all sorts of heat. In for some help is Stephen Schwert. Little toe poke from Lee. Cotton didn't come off it, did pretty well. Not going far though because the Port pressure's okay and it results in a kick being taken after a mark at half back by Curcio. young man of 19 years of age, up towards half forward. Poole is there, so too Schaefer. And Darren Smith juggles it, can't quite take it. Big pack of players. Premature whistle, but we'll have a bounce down.
I think the difference for the two sides is through that key centre-half forward position. Smith, with all of his experience, has been very good and has led to the footy very well. Centre-half forward for Centrals at the moment doesn't seem the same sort of authority in that position.
No, and they've got plenty of runners, haven't they, Port Adelaide? Smith is a veteran at bringing and drawing the ball, but he's always got a lot of support at his feet as well. In the back of Lees, and the umpire will give him the free kick.
Again there, we saw Lees take the initiative on Arnold, and when you're a forward, you make the play, you go to the footy, and Lees has done it very well.
He's been a success since joining the club last year from Richmond. Switches play, but only mildly towards Mead. Pull in the back of Ray, and it's a bit too obvious, wasn't it? Jason Ray plays on. Not a lot of effect there. Might have got a better result kicking it himself. Cotter well off the side of the boot and puts Port Adelaide back in the play through Binky. That short handball, it's often just, it's almost done innately without thinking, and the advantage could be just from the kick.
Yes, you've got to make that decision whether you're going to kick or handball, and I think the more you handle a footy, the more chance you've got of losing, unless your skills are very, very good.
Boundary thrown on the far side. I must admit, I'm finding myself watching this game and looking back to centre-half forward where Central are breaking down. I think that Stephen Wright just has to do something through there. This is no time to be teaching him a lesson against last year's Premier. Mead charges his way through, really basically unchallenged. This is Carter, half forward. Here's Smith. And as Alan just mentioned, the value of a functional centre-half forward. Up towards the forward pocket, Hodges and Hicks. And Hicks wins this one, does pretty well. Last year's Rezzy's Magarey medalist. Hereda, good handball to Lee. It's a stock standard movement out of defence. They do it pretty well until the kick comes along, that is. And it goes across the line. Again,
we see that with no functional centre-half forward, the Centrals are taking it wide all the time. And I think Stevie's option there further down the track is obviously Simon Lurs, who does lead to the footy very well and puts a bit of doubt in the backman's mind.
Yes, that's right. It's too far away, though, isn't it? I'm told he's going to be 4, 5, maybe 6 weeks away as Schaefer spoils it forward. Maybe their best option right here and now is Flood. Despite the fact that he kicked 5 last week, they've got Wakelin up there. Quick kick forward. The space will be worked into by Hodges. Quick take. Couldn't quite get it around the back, and Ray did well from the ground. You need to chase, though, young fella, because all you've done there is made it 2-on-1. But he gets out of it. A little too high. It doesn't matter much. They go across the line, and the boundary sees an end to this first term. Entertaining first term as the rain starts to come down. 3 goals apiece after 27 or 28 minutes. And the action for this grand final rematch on ABC Sport.
Second quarter here at Football Park. Scores locked away in the rematch of the 95 grand final. The Magpies and the Dogs. There it is. Pretty straight shooting too. In a first quarter that had plenty of mistakes in it, but both sides working hard, trying to set things up, taking risks, running off back lines, handballing to running players, and a feature of it was that Central just couldn't get it through their centre-half forward line, particularly because of me dropping back. I'll be interested to see what they try and do about that. This is Cook now coming over the ball. Paul desperate. And a bit of rain here at Football Park, which will make things a bit more difficult to handle.
Yeah, most important under these conditions now that players stay on line, take the footy and don't try and over-finesse.
Rain coming down, making it tough. Should square things up pretty well. Central were first to the football in most instances in the first term. Had an awful time through their forward line as you see the rain coming down. Everybody's gone scrambling for cover up underneath the concourse, understandably so. Schaefer pushes it forward. Anderson can't take it, and my recollection of playing wet games out here is that the ball becomes extremely greasy, very tough to handle. Never a bog out here, but always slippery if it's wet. Schaefer, it's like a cake of soap. Look at that. Well done by Ray. Good players can still manage it. That was stolen. You could go for armed robbery for that. Rowan Smith up towards the forward line, and Hodges takes it on the line. Tough kick from there, though. Plays on, wastes no time, and kicks a point. So after 6 straight goals from both sides, we end up with a behind. Not sure how Rowan Smith ended up with that.
Well, it was a little bit of a magician, but it was a very good kick to the goal face, and Hodges used his bulk there, completed the mark before it went over the line.
And didn't do much with it. He would be disappointed with that effort. For competent full forward, it shouldn't have presented much trouble. Binky on Lee. Close to the boundary line. That was McKay. Cook saddles up and gives away the free kick, I think.
What on earth was Pyman all about there? A man standing on him and he decides to run away. He was always going to be tackled.
Binky's kick in towards full forward. A chance now. That came down to Cranage. Borlase. Hicks caught, held on to. Paul battles hard. He's got numbers against him at the moment. Comes out the back. Harada goes towards the boundary line, but it's all the Magpies. McKay's clean bowled. Has a bit of time though. Smith will help him out. Sends one back in, but dear me, straight into the kennel.
Craig Cotter, short pass to Cook, who gets thumped twice. Saywell's in there. So's Curcio. Handballed out, tough one to take, and it finds the boundary line. We've played 3.5 minutes, it's 3-1 to 3 goals.
Tell me, Alan, if you were coaching right now, would you be happy about kicking short in the back lines in the wet?
Not under these conditions, Neville. You've got to get the ball long and get to the handball situation's got to be limited, and both teams are just taking us a while to adjust to these conditions.
Schaefer's done everything right in the ruck so far, getting his hand to every ball. That includes the middle of the ground where he's been all over the top of Mead. You could argue they've not really taken advantage of it as McGowan goes around the body. A little hopefully, and it's gone across the boundary line on the full. Wilson's there, so too is Benke. But it will go to the senior partner, and that's Borlase. Daisy runs around and gets caught because Potter's smother was pretty good. Cotton, this will take some getting hold of. Off the ground, Harada had one wide, probably discretion the better part of Valor, held onto it. Harada comes to this side of the ground, the grandstand side. Cotton out the back. He was more concerned about Lees, who was more concerned about the ball, and as a consequence he got it. Saywell. Quick kick, again Lees, they play the back play. Their structure, Port Adelaide, is perfect. As we mentioned through the first term, Lees just sits himself in the front spot and time after again gets the ball. No change made at centre half forward for the Dogs.
No, not as yet, and as we saw in that first quarter, Lees and Mead combined across that half back line and made life impossible for the Dog forwards. But you know, despite that, they still managed 3 goals. Though they had the slight advantage of a breeze. Not much to speak of though. Loose ball. Schaefer from 50 just has a pop shot towards goal, and getting back there Wilson just in time and saves 6, or saves 5 I should say. So at the 5-minute mark of the second quarter, scores are tied away again, 3-1 apiece.
Roger Delaney, beautiful torpedo punt, 10 metres short of the centre of the ground. Saywell sits out wide. Cotter, it looked like, had a pretty good game. Cotton, they need a goal, Jared. Runs around, runs into trouble, but still kicks it. A good goal, and Central bounce back. They go to 4-1 and the 6-point edge over Port Adelaide, who are 3-1.
Yeah, very good skills here from Cotter. That's a very good take of the greasy ball. And he's looked long, kicked the ball long, and one of the problems with the zone is that you leave people by themselves on the half-forward line. If you don't get the ball away from the kick-off, you'll have 3 or 4 loose Central District players, and if you can put pressure on in the centre of the ground like happened there, you can always kick a goal.
The Dogs by 6 points. Early days in the second quarter. Paul with the knock. Clever sweep by Cook, gives Jarrod another chance, but he's not up to it this time. Luck's a fortune. Flood out in front, puts it back to the front of the square. He wants Arnold. Big jump at the back, Wakeland. Cook. Chance now and wasted it, Potter. Arnold. Port Adelaide stand up well in defence. This is Anderson, gets it out to Borlase, and they seemingly, for the moment, out of trouble through Lees.
Schaefer attacks the ball. I was just about to say that he was down in the middle of the ground and looked pretty ordinary. But he's up, gets it from Schwert. Didn't do much with it though, did he? Butterfingers, straight through it went. Ginniver, it's not a bad coaching move from Jack Cale. I reckon he understood that Mead was being beaten and he's thrown Poole on, and Poole just jumped straight into Schaefer, boots and all. Half forward line, number 3 for Port Adelaide is Francis. Scott Lees there, Brian Lees is there, and finally it goes across the line. So Jack reckons that Poole can do a better job, obviously.
Yeah, Stephen, I think that's a good contrast in terms of rucking styles. Schaefer's the athlete and Poole's a body player, and that was apparent then in that centre square where he ran straight at Schaefer. But to Schaefer's credit, he got up and had another go.
Just took him a while.
Girdham in defence. He works back and forward. Francis, beautiful tackle on him. Smith, that's Rowan Smith, goes through the pack, as does Ginniver, 29-year-old skipper of Port Adelaide. And getting plenty of touches is Jarrod Cotton. Forward, good defensive work. Binky, Francis. So despite the weather, which is wet, players handling the ball still reasonably well. A few mistakes, but through quickly. Pyman. Too high they call, but the umpire's not interested in it. Port Adelaide still by 6.
Roger Delaney coming off. Looks like he's limping. And Angove to come on.
Hereda, Borlase and Ginniver, who's always productive, except when he's kicking with a wet ball at Football Park in round 2. The southern end as Delaney goes off the ground. Well, looked as though he had a bit of a groin problem. Cotter, he's had a pretty good game. I don't say that particularly disparagingly because he's not a bad player, but I haven't seen him play this well for a while. Half forward, Carter attacked the football like he really wanted it and then couldn't quite find his teammate in Lees. Speaking of groins, they're the ones who do them when you have to double back like that. Off the ground it goes, and this is Cotter once again, probably shaping up as one of Central's best. Picks out Wakeland. What if Michael's come out to centre half forward? I get the feeling he might have. Northeast, lets it out the back, doesn't matter because Mead's there. He's gone to pick up Flood. And good work. Terrific work by Wakeland, who works back with the ball and takes it.
Yeah, Wakeland's got very good anticipation. Always gets to the footy first, whether in defence or up forward. Say
well, they're still a little indirect. Probably a function of not having confidence in going through centre half forward. Out it goes towards Schwert, who uses the body marvellously. Socks are down. Just see the tape of the ankles sitting above the socks there. And Stephen Schwert's going to have a shot from about 48 metres. It will test the leg because what breeze there is, and there's not much of it now I might add, he's into it. And the ball 10 minutes into this second term will be a little heavy. Good luck, I say, from 48 metres, perhaps 49. Gave it a pretty good chance. 1 point only. 4-2 plays 3-1.
You'd feel that if Central District could make a strong point out of centre half forward, that they'd be a fair way in front because they're still 6-7 points in front here at this stage, and with a focal point at centre half forward, they could be well in front.
Exactly. It looks like Schaefer's there at the moment, and Arnold's gone into ruck. See if he can make more of a ditch out. As I said earlier, though, it was really Mead that caused them all the problems there in that first quarter. Wilson, he's had a lot of touches too. He's been a good player for Port Adelaide, and make sure it's out of bounds. Good defensive ploy.
It's a good point. Mead was being beaten in the middle of the ground, but on the back play in that defensive area, he just kept bouncing everything out of there. He's actually gone down now to pick up Flood. Poole's gone onto the ball, and as you say, Schaefer's gone to centre half forward. Well, Alan, you're perhaps the best to comment on it. I reckon Wakeland might be better there.
Wakeland does give you a lot more movement, and he is one of the Central's forwards that gets to the ball first, which is most important.
Don't you think that Wakeland, I just don't see enough goal-kicking power in the central forward line. I'd just like to see Wakeland deeper, closer to goal.
Certainly, but I think we're trying to find someone to play centre-half forward, and I believe that Wakeland, given that chance to move around, particularly under these conditions, would work well. Goodo,
Arnold gets it down, and McGowan plays beautifully for the free kick, gives it to Cook. They get on with it quickly. In it goes now, high, over half forward. Unable Wakeland on that occasion. Northeast with him. The advantage, Rowan Smith, number 13. Coming through strongly though was Ray. That's Jason Ray off the left foot. Tried to kick it off the ground. Not a bad thing to do in the wet. Schwert and Wakeland combined. The kick was just a little bit, well, the handball I should say, too hard for Vardy. And it's pushed back out by Wilson to half back for the Magpies.
We must appreciate these conditions here. It's pretty easy up here, but down there the ball must be very, very slippery on what is a hard surface.
Poole and Schaefer. Schaefer gets a palm to it. Someone got a smother on it. Wouldn't have been Hull because he'd be protecting that left forearm somewhat.
I say a hard surface there, but you've got to realise that we haven't had a lot of rain, and it must be very hard underfoot, but just a bit greasy on the grass on top.
Be like the roads, wouldn't it, when they get wet after a long dry spell? They get slippery. Same out there at Footy Park. In fact, it's always slippery out there when it's wet. Schwert, quick kick up forward. Wakeland, whose competitiveness isn't bad. Peter Green from the ground. The boundary line's there. I wonder if someone's got that out of bounds on the full. They have. Central will get a kick. Looks like McGowan, long way across there. Ricky McGowan, short pass, pretty well done. Found Peter Green, who can kick goals from half forward. 26 of them last year. Has one today. It's a pretty important kick, would give Central something of a buffer. I think he's missed. He has. Offline 4-3, plays 3-1, and we're 14 minutes into the second term.
An unusual, inexperienced mistake by Port Adelaide defender there, Alan, just kicking it out of bounds on the full.
Yes, I think it is your best friend, that boundary line, if you're a defender, and to try and get it across in another manner would have been more appropriate.
That was Mead. Binky with the crumb and gets it forward quickly. Still raining out there, and Lee's going the wrong way. Showed plenty of courage. Oh, beautifully done. Gave the advantage to Cranage. He keeps it in play. Not quite to Angove. Ben Cranage comes from Hamilton, country Victoria, and one of the new recruits for Port Adelaide, amongst others. Shane Carruthers, Matthew Bellevue, Chris Curcio, Walker, Quirk. They've been at it over the summer, Port Adelaide, but they've got good reason to, haven't they? They expect to be in the AFL next April, or sorry, here this April about being in next year. And they'll be doing a lot of recruiting around the country. 15 minutes in, second quarter. A very damp Footy Park. McGowan clever with the hands as usual. Gives it out to Potter. Left foot kick in high. The wrestle, Poole and Arnold to ground. A chance now. Held onto was Anderson. No free kick. Flood underneath it. Well done, Mead. Loose ball. Recovery was good from Mead. Wild kick. Mead and Northeast. Over the shoulder, not quite. Flood puts it back into the face of goal. The kick is good, and the jump was good from Jared Cotton. Not quite. Schwert, desperate work, Smith. The Port Adelaide defence go into overdrive. They've got to hold it up, and they do very successfully. Big jump from Jared Cotton.
Yes, I just wonder whether he probably tried to make it a bit too acrobatic. And maybe he should have just used a bit more experience. I thought he tried to take a real specky where you can see there that the ball very slippery and hard to handle.
I don't think there's any doubt he tried to take a big specky. And it would have been a specky if he'd got it as well. But I know what you're saying. Play the percentages and he missed it. Just get the feeling that David Flood, I reckon that was his first kick just a second ago there, that maybe they need to get him into the play and put him through half forward. Maybe he and Wakeland do something a bit different and put the tall down at full forward. Schaefer. Arnold. Full of bright ideas, aren't we? This is Lees. Quick kick out towards half-back.
Central Districts have had a lot of play in this quarter up this end of the ground, so I think the opportunities are there, and even though it's not a day conducive for high-skill football, forwards have to make opportunities any way they possibly can.
Yes, it's the football term is scramble, and today's one of those days, as Alan Stewart's talking about. Just have to get in front, and you might not get a bag of 6 or 7, but 2 or 3 might just be enough from the odd forward. Beautifully taken, Cook. Jason Ray kicked it to him, and he had to handle it with one hand to bring it in. And pretty skillful player, Cook. Plenty of pace. Wasn't too bad last week. Dropped out of the play a little bit against Nord when they needed him in that last quarter. Kick is high. Up they go. Loose ball, back of the pack. Lees goes to the defensive side, which is the boundary side. Schaefer goes underneath the pack. Good tap onto McGowan. That came up from Saywell. Chance now for Potter. Puts it in high. Beautifully read, Mead. He's been superb in defence.
Very versatile man, Darren Mead. Has a look at Lees on the far side. Rowan Smith's there. Fairly quiet Rowan today. Stephen Schwert. Tunnel ball out across the line. 18 minutes have gone. 4-3 plays 3-1.
Again, there we saw that 2 very skilled players in Swerton and Rowan Smith, the difficulty in handling the footy and staying on your feet.
Saw a couple of Central old-timers, Terry Moore and Peter Vivian. They're deep in thought. Cotton, who touches it on the ground once. This would be pretty good from there. Awkward looking kick straight across the face of goal, hugs the boundary line and goes over.
What odds a reverse punt on your left foot in the wet at Footy Park?
When you hold the ball strangely anyway.
You've got to bring it back to the front of the square, don't you?
Well, that is the percentage play to kick it to the centre, to the head of the square.
Throw in. Forward pocket for the Dogs. Pull. Ooh. Stays over at Anderson, takes the bump and gives it on to Geneva. They move the ball forward quickly. Cranage can't take it. From behind was Hull. He couldn't either. Cranage back in it. Off the ground was Green. Lee. White handball. Wrong colours, Scotty. That was McKay from Port Adelaide. And I don't think he needs any reminding about it, but Angove's got it now. Scotty Hodges will have it next.
Well, how often does it happen in the game of football where one side has the ball down one end all the time, and then 2 clear kicks to the Port Adelaide end, and they have a free shot at goal?
Yes, it's. I guess it all comes with the open space, doesn't it? 1-on-1, getting it in quickly, backing your own, giving your forwards the advantage. You only need a second in footy, and this man doesn't even need that. And he usually makes you pay the ultimate price. He's kicked a couple of points, Scott. Can't find the big ones just yet. Almost into time on. And Scotty Lee, the veteran, 32 years of age.
Just about due for his superannuation, isn't he? He's going to be a good player for them this year, though, Scotty Lee. In and out of the side last year. And fully fit, he's going to be a real bonus for them. Spoiled down by Schaefer. McGowan, one clean take was okay, but Hull a little reluctant to get hold of him with that sore arm. Hereda sits back. Understated Brian Hereda. McGowan has his head pulled off. Ricky McGowan sitting inside half back. The rain's continuing to tumble down. 7 points. Central are enjoying that little buffer. Scott Lee's having a natter there, just suggesting where the ball should go. The McGowan kick comes just short of centre wing. Schaefer, the structure of his game's okay. Plays it in front mostly. Stephen Schwert. Wilson. Pretty good first quarter for him. A little quieter in the second. Midfield. So too for McKay. Can make that description for Darren as he goes inside half forward. 2 Central versus 1 Port. Spoiled forward. Straight to Darren Smith. Off the ground by Potter. Test of leg speed now as Girdham gets prepared to come back onto the ground. Must admit I didn't notice he was gone. Green and Carter. Carter was the one who got the kick. Geneva, his opposite number is Tim Cook. Angove is in there. Slippery, isn't it? It's pretty tough. A double change being made. Number 55 is Brenton Daniel. He comes on for Central as Girdham awaits. And Jared Cotton coming off.
Yeah, that surprised me with Cotton. He was getting a bit of the footy across half forward and had three or four possessions in the last 5 minutes.
Schaefer. To nobody in particular, just picks up a bit of meterage.
How have you seen Schaefer?
I think Schaefer's done very well in the ruck contest. He's won a lot of taps. Maybe Centrals haven't capitalised on his first use of the footy.
In ruck again against Smith. He's interfered with that time. McGowan is good to say well. Off the ground. That was Binky. Pretty tough in there. Schaefer off the ground this time. Trying to give Port Adelaide the advantage. Pull. Beset on by dog defenders. Binky caught. Ooly. Caught that. Pretty tough, and the players get excited. Oh, you'd expect that in a game like this, though. It's pretty hard to get an advantage, and if you can hurt somebody, and the umpire does the right thing, they play it on. If you want to fight, boys, you'll be 1 or 2 short. Very good umpiring. The play goes on with Pyman at the bottom of the pack, and leave the fighting and the reports to the umpire off the ground.
I think you'll find watching this that Peter Green might be the one they're after.
Yes, he's a volatile player, Green. He likes to mix it, and if it's a close one, he'll make you pay. Lee goes to ground. Loose ball, chance for Swert. The old-timer picks it up and sends a grubber out towards the far side.
23 minutes in. There won't be a lot of time on. We've only had 1 goal scored this term. So stand by for the siren. Maybe a chance for 1 score from either side. They'd want a quick entry, though. Stephen Swert takes it across the line. Deliberately, argue the Port Adelaide supporters.
Actually, was good umpiring before to get on with it so quickly when there was so much going on.
I think under these conditions, the umpires have got to have a lot of control, and to get it to play on the players, once the footy's in action, the players will want to be there. I'd just like to comment on McGowan's work rate. He's had a lot of possession. Maybe hasn't used them all effectively, but he's worked very, very hard, particularly in this term.
Half forward, nothing happening except a free kick. It's going to Arnold, who's been disappointing so far. 62 games, hasn't really come of age yet. Hasn't really lived up to the expectation. He's only a young man yet, though. Off hands, Cook can kick the amazing goal, and it's not going to this time. Offline and through for a behind, so Central are 4-4. They've kicked 1 goal and 4 behinds this term.
The game there for the taking, isn't it, at the moment? 8 points separates the two sides, but not a lot separating them in play at the moment. Deciding which way to go is Mead. Finally down the ground, straight down the ground to Anderson on a lead. Greg Anderson, Crows player, back along with Scotty Hodges in the Port Adelaide side. Mead plays on, puts Anderson under pressure. Francis,
Nice.
have a look at that. Touch and speed, plenty of class there, but not in his delivery. Jason Rowe couldn't quite take it. Had hands like Flipper on that occasion. Just there for Cotter. Hicks down. Potter there. They're under pressure, aren't they? Carnage in there. I just said carnage, I should say. Cranage. There was a bit of carnage there on that half forward line, but it's pretty tough out there at the moment, and with the rain down and the slippery field, lots of mistakes, and but that was a very, very classy bit of play in difficult conditions by Francis. Hereda from halfback.
To Daniel. Did he take it? No. McKay, quick hands forward. Borlase, a little quieter in the second term. Dodging and weaving, gets it to McKay. Round the body, set upon by Central players, but gets a free kick. Well, I think Jason Ray would have had a seizure just a moment ago and he let that ball out the back. Just needed some flat hands and keep a play on it. Up towards full forward. Darren Smith charges through like the 5:30 Express. Can't take it. Tackle's pretty good. Central defence is holding up okay. Hicks, only as far as Francis, and he does have lightning leg speed, this boy. Play on. I'll call it from up here. Right to the head of the square. Umpire did call him to play on. Pyman's in there. Quick attack on the body, it's okay. This is Ray, and intelligently looks for and finds the line with the help of Cook.
Well, Centrals have certainly got numbers back in their defence at the moment. And the game really has closed down a bit because of these conditions. And it's the team that doesn't over-finesse the footy that'll get the results on the board.
And it's going to be a tough day at the park for both teams. And all the basics need to be done. Cranage again. And Greg Anderson. Port Adelaide. Been around a while. 29 years of age. And wearing Brian Cunningham's old number. Probably Brett Chalmers' number from last year. Number 8. There it is. Bucky Cunningham running around in the old days, kicking goals with the left and right foot. He's now the chief executive at Port Adelaide in their AFL bid as well. This is Geneva. Pop shot.
How's that?
Offline.
No good.
No good at all.
We can only turn down the appeal.
The skipper has a pop shot with a left foot torpedo. Do you mind in the wet, Timmy? Dear me. He would have loved getting that, wouldn't he? He's hard to get a smile off his face at the best of times, Alan.
Yeah, I think he was a bit disappointed he didn't pop that through. He has very high standards for himself, Timmy, and he would have loved that goal. Unfortunately, it was not to be.
4-4 plays 3-3. The umpires are adding time on for every ball up, and that's why we'll end up with, so far, nearly 7 minutes of time on, where there's only been one goal scored. Rowan Smith hugging the boundary line. This would be spectacular if he gets it. He's missed. Only by virtue of it being touched. Have a look at the umpire. They love it, don't they, those goal umpires? I think they go to drama classes. 28 minutes have gone, 4-4 to 3-4.
They just have to watch full forwards week in and week out. That's all they have to do. They'd learn a bit. And that wraps up the second quarter here at Footy Park, Port Adelaide. 3-4-22. They trail by 6 points against the Dogs, who they beat in last year's grand final by 48. All the action on ABC Sport. Third quarter here at Football Park, last year's grand finalists doing it all again, and a bit of rain-soaked Football Park, a little bit of water. 3-4 plays 4-4. There was nothing in it at quarter time, 3 goals apiece, and only 1 goal scored in that second quarter, and it's been pretty tight. And Alan Stewart's with us for the first time today. And Alan, any butterflies in the tummy, seeing your old side?
It's a little bit different sitting up here, Neville, but it certainly is. Produces a very tight tussle at the moment, with the conditions such that it's going to be a battle of the bodies.
Yes, and Greg Anderson's been battling all day. He's been a pretty good player for them, and playing off a half-forward line, having a little run on the ball. But the real feature of today's been, as usual, the Port Adelaide defence. It's been impeccable, led by Brian Lees. And he's had Schaefer and Arnold to deal with today. He's had a little bit of help from Mead, and that's proved positive. Paul started on the boundary line. Cranage, a new boy from Hamilton in Victoria, is a little offline. He doesn't look much older than my nephew, who's only about 10. Have a look at him. But he's been in amongst it, had a few kicks and a few touches, and they've got a few new people. Port Adelaide will catch up with him as this live telecast continues. But for now, let's concentrate on what Saywell's doing. Has a swing, misses, gives it to Pyman. Good run through the centre. The rain pours down, the kick comes in. It's Flood. He hasn't had much today. He kicked 5 last week. He's only had 6 kicks and kicked 5-1. Took 5 marks too, Flood, last week. So he does rely on the ball coming in pretty well, Alan.
Yes, he has made front position pretty well, but hasn't been able to take any good marks at this stage.
And the rain is fairly tumbling down as Borlase on the far side gets attacked by Potter. Dragged in the second term. And some half-time margins around town. Out at the parade, it's tight. Norwood by 1 point.
Yes, and the Tigers by 19 points over the hapless Blues.
A bit tighter than you would have thought down there at the Bay, and North Adelaide have an edge over West Adelaide playing at Prospect this afternoon. Each and every one of those half-time scores. Tight at the parade, we'll take you there later in the day. We've got a battle on here at Football Park in the meantime now as the ball goes to half-forward and across the line underneath the scoreboard reading 4-4 to 3-4. And there's the run.
Yeah, these conditions are very difficult for the players. They've trained all pre-season, probably haven't had a wet training night, and to come out here in a replay of last year's grand final, it's going to make conditions and scoring very difficult.
Up they go. McGowan, who's had a poultice of touches today, and at the end of last round was leading the possessions at 33. I called last week's game when he played against Norwood, and really didn't credit him with that many touches. Northeast, the kick. almost by a bit of fortune, gets to Mead. He sends one in over 50. A chance it's a loose ball. Players converge on it. Pulls late. In they come. Smith hangs on to the player. It's come out of the back wave. Fabian Francis showed a lot of pace and skill in this wet weather today. Cranage, a quick kick forward. Scotty Lee, there's a brawl behind play. You might have caught it in the top right-hand column of your screen. And if you're lucky, we might have another look at it in a minute, but it's still live, the ball. Smith gives it back. Schwert and Cotton. They're in possession, grandstand side, the Dogs.
I don't think Scott Hodges would like it to be in the top corner of the screen.
And it's still going on, Steve, behind play. They're right into it.
Wakeland to Green and out of bounds on the full. It's a tough ball to manage, and as you say, they're still going on with it. Reserve Magarey medalist Damien Hicks has a big job this afternoon. He's done it pretty well so far.
Yeah, he's been steady in his position.
Nudge out by Wilson. Well, I'm a bad judge. I thought that was a free kick. Play on. Michael Wilson to the middle of the ground where Anderson is lurking. The further the game's gone, the better he's become. Problematic for them now because Ginniver's swooped. Had Mead on the inside, elected to go with the leg and found Francis. Watch for Hodges, in short to his Mead. Set him up, hospital ball, speaking of that. Spoiled away by Herrera. It's tough in close in this game, as it always is when you play Port. Big pack of players. McKay. It's like a cake of soap, that ball at Football Park, when it gets wet.
And Mead is down and very hurt by the looks of things.
Slow to get up as Schwert comes to centre wing. If you keep your feet, you half a chance. 2 versus 1. Rowan Smith's under pressure. The boundary line helps.
Yeah, I think Mead got injured in that last contest. Just the contrasting styles that Centrals have struggled at centre-half forward, and if they can get a power point at centre-half forward, here we are here with Mead. He might have had a problem with the knee there.
Yeah, a lot of players around the ball at that stage, and bodies and arms and legs flying everywhere.
Yeah, I was just saying that in this first half, Centrals have struggled at centre-half forward. If someone could take a power point in that area and be strong in this court at centre-half forward, Central can go away and win this game.
It's a problem with local footy, isn't it, that if you are a centre-half forward or over 6'3", you're in the AFL. So the competition is starved of quality centre-half forwards.
Exactly right, but I think that all you need under these conditions is someone that's going to provide a contest, and then people willing to work to that contest, and that will break open the game.
And the other end of the ground, that's pretty much what Darren Smith does and has done for many years for Port Adelaide. Just brings the ball to the ground all the time. This is Schwert, and he goes inside to the runner in Cotter.
Craig Cotter through the midfield. Right leg. He's played beautifully in the first half. Mead's the first one there. As I mentioned at half-time, he was beaten in the centre square, but backward of the play, he was just tremendous. Looked like Lees with a chip pass. Middle of the ground. I can tell you one thing, it's very dark. Mead, Ginniver. Number 26 is a new player, Curcio. It's tough in the middle, hard to get kicks. You're made to earn every single one. Quick kick forward from Pyman to Arnold, who's been disappointing. Hands off. Neville mentioned earlier that's a useless statistic in a way, but I guess Stephen Schwert has a better leg in terms of the kick, and he's got Cotton at half forward. Jared's short pass. They're being forced wide, and it's tough to score from there. Also means they have to handle the ball more times. That's a clever kick from Wilson, finds the line.
Well, I still believe that Centrals have done very well to have a 6-point break at this stage, and if they could become a little bit more direct and get a couple of forwards to play in front, they'll get a little bit more result on the board for their efforts.
Mead featured a lot in ruck and as the sweeper in defence. This is Girdham, sends it in towards half forward. Player pushed in the back, and I would have given Craig Potter that free kick. The umpire didn't agree with me though. They play it on. Cotter, ball to ground. A chance. Curcio, he hails from the Fitzroy Reserves in Melbourne and is one of 2 new players. The other one is Ben Cranage from Hamilton.
Personally haven't rated Craig Cotter much in the past, but today he's been very good.
Yes, he's a Centrals defender that has showed some initiative and got to the ball first, and his skills are pretty good.
Chance McGowan. Have you rated him today, Steve?
I think Alan's comment earlier was terrific about the fact that he's worked so very hard. This is Peter Green. Knocks up getting kicks, McGowan, when he does work, and Lee sits back. One of Port's best in the first term. When the rain came down, he was a little quieter. And I don't know, I thought I saw something there where he had a little kiss of the football. He does as well. Odd tradition.
I haven't seen that one before. I'd like to be kissing something a bit different than the footy.
You always said to your players to play with passion. There it is.
Yes, it's a very appreciative half-back. As he kisses the footy and not his opponent, I suppose everyone will be happy. This is Cook and Anderson. He plays hard. Anderson today has worked very, very hard. Has copped a lot of body knocks, staying over the top of the footy. I've been pretty pleased with his performance today.
Yes, Anderson's experiences. He knows it's a day where you have to get in and win the footy.
Front of the pack. Girdham. Beautifully done. Reverse punt, left foot is Swert. Very ambitious kick, but he brings up 1 point.
We acknowledge the performance of McGowan's work rate, but Mead's work rate in the ruck, particularly on back play, has been exceptional today.
We just saw Curcio come off. He was replaced by Mark Taylor, who's gone down to full forward. Hodges is out to centre half forward and being picked up by second gamer Jason Ray. Arnold. Good work from Port. Magnificent looking torpedo punt from Rowan Smith out towards half forward. There is Ray, couldn't get to it. That's a problem when you miss it though, because his opponent had still some locomotion. That was Hodges. Scott Lee attacked it with some fervour. Smothered, and it goes across the line. We played 9 minutes of this very wet third term. Someone's got a kick out of all of that. Not afraid to switch at these sides, are they?
That can be a bit of a danger on a day like today, kicking the ball across the ground, because an error would prove costly.
Schaefer on the left leg. He's got some talent. Mead. Good handball. Just went out to the wrong player. This is Cotton. They're telling me before the game he's changed that funny grip on the kick. We're not going to see it this time as it comes out to Wakeland. Here's a chance for them to make a little break. Head of the square. Intelligently so. There's 2-on-1 down there. Green's in the front spot. Perfectly done as well. Off hands. Well done, Peter Green, and well done, Rick McGowan. Deserved every bit of that. They played it well. McGowan's first. Central's fifth. 5-5 plays 3-4, 10 minutes into the third term.
Well, this is a sensational piece of play by Jared Cotton. Often under these conditions you think that the brawn and the brute strength will get you the goal, but that was a real bit of skill and bulking. The centering of the ball to the square was disciplined, and then McGowan on the back play there just swooped in and kicked a very important goal, and the momentum is with Central Districts.
The only question to ask was what was Wakeland doing 10 metres by himself behind half forward, not going to the footy, but maybe he made a better judgment than everyone. 3-4 plays 5-5. Mead beaten in ruck. A chance for Girdham off the ground. Does it well. That's the sort of play in these conditions. Body behind the ball. Just get it forward at all costs and play in front. Cotton on that occasion has one goal. Flood on Lees, who goes backwards trying to concede the point. Finally they do, but very dangerously. And could have easily ended up a bit of a disaster, that.
Yes, to me it looked like a little bit of panic from Lees, an experienced player like that. Again, in these conditions you need to take the footy and do something positive with it.
So 14 points the difference, and that's a lot under these conditions, let me tell you. Schaefer bundled out of it by a player with a lower centre of gravity. That was Carter. Anderson turns it over. Saywell, excellent last week against Norwood. Pretty good today as well. To McGowan, doesn't miss many, but he's missed this one because Ango's chipped in and taken it. Northeast, even with the gloves, it's pretty slippery. Enough time though to recover and chip it short, find a player.
This is Borlase, number 16. Missed last year's grand final. Was overlooked along with Mark Taylor, both in today's side though. Remembering that the Dogs went down by 48 points in that game in front of 45,000 people here last October. Centre wing, and 36 plays 22, 11 minutes in. The advantage is with the Dogs. Mead against Arnold, that time Mead. Francis on Ray. Arnold. And the Dogs are forward, an opportunity for number 28, which is Craig Potter, but the ball is out of bounds. So while they've gained Chris Curcio and Ben Cranage for today, Port Adelaide, they've lost quite a few. Stephen Williams has retired along with Anthony Darcy, who's gone to St Kilda, Clive Waterhouse to Fremantle, and Wade has gone to Sturt. Hutton and Foster have also retired for Port Adelaide, so they've had to replace a few, but they're pretty savage recruiters, the Magpies, and they've got Hull back from the West Coast. He started well, injured his, I think it was his left forearm earlier in the day and went off for a little spell. So he'll be a valuable player during the year. Francis sees it out of bounds.
I think also Robbie West is a very important player because of that unfortunate injury, who's just so important for Port Adelaide through the midfield. And that's an area today where they haven't really dominated like they would normally do.
Roger Girdham coming off. Can only assume that he must be injured. He's going to be replaced by Peter Vardy. There's not a lot happening on that far side of the ground, is it? There's Roger. Just fantastic in last year's final series. Worked hard without great impact last week against the Redlegs, and today he's worked very hard as well. An electrician by trade. Potter all over Carter, 25 metres. Not unexpected either. A threshold of 50 games, Stephen Carter, a state player last year. We of course have the state coach for this year sitting alongside us, and we get a summary of the lead up to that game in June. This is Poole, not a bad sort of an attempt either. Big pack and nothing happening.
It's surprising at this stage of the game that Port, who normally dominate up and down the centre of the ground, really haven't had a clear winner through the midfield at this stage. It's been a real struggle.
Rowan Smith, an opportunist, nearly kicked a freak goal in that second quarter. Steers one back. But the Dog defence standing up pretty well. Was Cotter. Got it out to the far side. A chance for Anderson now. Green's with him. And he got himself into a bit of strife on the grandstand side in the second quarter, Green. And there was a barrage of brawls that broke out, but the umpires just went straight on with play.
I know Central are in charge in a sense, but can you see from your position, knowing these red, white and blue lads as you do, any positional changes that might help at the moment?
I think the only one is to try and get someone that can take charge of centre-half forward with voice and body and presence, so they can become a little bit more direct, because they've had a lot of footy around the ground. They've just played a little bit wide.
Stephen Schwert. Yeah, I agree with that. I'm not sure the ruckmen are the go. They're just not mobile enough. This is Cotton. Half a chance, though, to put them three in front. Has a look at them and nails it. Wow. Under these circumstances, with the rain continuing to bucket down, that's a pretty good break. 6-6 to 3-4. And we're just 15 minutes into the third term.
And let's not underestimate the skill that's required to take the footy and on the run, kick the ball, very clean at the goal front. And Cotton's been a good contributor all day. I was surprised he didn't come off the ground in the second quarter. But the Bulldogs are doing it well. The momentum's their way. And as I say, Port Adelaide, who normally control the midfield, haven't really had a clear winner.
So some updates for you. Everything tied away between the Redlegs and South Adelaide, and it's Glenelg by 26 points.
And North Adelaide are having their margin whittled away. That Norwood South game, as I've flagged already, will be coming to you the last term, so stay with us on ABC Sport. If you're viewing this through the Northern Territory, I guess you're probably a bit envious of the rain. It's been bucketing down for the last hour or so. Scott Lee, someone's got a free kick. Mark Tyler's not happy, so I suspect it's not his. Damien Hicks, the joint winner of the Magarey medal last year with teammate Neil McGoran.
Correct, Spoggy McGoran.
Pretty good year for both lads as Ray goes off the ground. Cotton, good take. Needed to be as well. He was hot with a couple of players on him. A bit further down for Brian Hereda though. Tall man, keeps over it and had the good sense to try and squeeze it out. Carter, nothing there for him. Ray, well, he's butchered that one, but he's done most other things pretty well today.
This is Wilson. He's been a good player today for Port Adelaide, as has Smith. Just by the virtue he's given them something. Anderson takes the ball and kicks it up quickly to Francis, who's out past 50. So he'll be looking for somebody, probably Tyler. Doesn't really offer much. So it goes in long, front of the square. Mead, or Poole that is. Chance for Cranage. Number 32 has been around the place, is Cotter all day and been good. Good tackle on Lee. Chance for Cook, picks it up, gets around Borlase, not quite. Holding the ball, great tackle, Daisy Borlase.
That's a great tackle.
Yeah, under these conditions, it's not the conditions to try and get around players. You need to be able to get the ball on quickly.
So, didn't really play the percentage there. Tim Cook probably knows better. Borlase from 50, won't make the distance in the heavy condition. Up goes Ray, gets a knock, or a fist to it I should say. Cotter again, it's been sensational.
Yeah, Craig Cotter's played very well across that half-back line. He's mopped up a lot of footies, he's showed some initiative, and he's been a very good player, high up in Central's best at this stage.
A couple of minutes from time on. Dog supporters would be pretty pleased. Rightly so. They've got last year's premiers under control at the moment. Anderson will get a free kick and pump it back in. I promise he won't carry the distance, at least to the goal front. Shouldn't make promises you can't keep, should you? You'll probably get onto a torpedo punt that'll go through at the top of the sticks. 42-22. 20 points the difference. That's the expected result, right to the line with a heavy ball. It's now 19 points the difference as the umpire calls all clear. Port Adelaide and Central District, round 2. Not the traditional Anzac Day rematch of the grand final on ABC Sport. Instead, we've got it second up.
Scotty Lee will bring the ball back in. And been quite a contributor. He's one of their best last week against Nord. And at 32, he's still able to contribute something. It's Jason Ray. 13 touches last week in his first outing. And he looks the goods.
See Girdham's back on. Makes you wonder why he went off.
Yeah, I didn't see any blood, so it might have just gone off for a small chat. That seems to be a lot of what coaches like doing these days. Girdham back in the action as he always is, gives it on to McGowan, under pressure. Lee's in front, he's been there, or sorry, Mead I should say. Him and Lees have owned half back. Flat, 2, he's got it.
A very important passage of play there. When Roger Girdham, really, we don't see it. That's a good mark under these conditions. Flat hands, brought the ball to the front. But just prior to that, Roger Girdham's attack at the footy at centre half forward was excellent, and that's the style of football you must have under these conditions. He created the opportunity for David Flood to take his first mark for the day.
So in the absence of a gun half forward, they're running it through there now, and the first time they do, Flood's got an opportunity. He's offline. Kicked 5 last week. Said earlier he only had 6 kicks and took 5 marks, so the sort of game I guess he likes, Alan, to get out on a lead and take a catch.
Yes, I think that's his strength. He's also a very intelligent footballer.
Good looking kick in from defence. Cotter's at the back, having an exceptional game at the moment. Wilson. I guess, to be fair, Cotter's going to be well suited to these conditions. Scott Hodges, the man who's kicked the most goals on the park, 524 for a career, spanning a number of years. Fabian Francis. Oh, what's happened there? Someone's holding, and I think Tyler's going to get it. First mistake for Damien Hicks, if that's the case. It is. Mark Tyler, Ken Farmer medalist of 92, is going to get the ball. So Mark Tyler. Not a score yet. From 15 metres out, thumps it through for a point. Well, that's a fairly ordinary miss.
Well, in the context of the game, we've seen Flood miss one up the northern end and now one down the southern end. In a game where probably 10 goals will be the winning scoreline, they were 2 very crucial misses.
Well, we had 6 goals in the first quarter and only 3 since, and we're into time on in the third. So you can see what effect the conditions have had on the game. Apart from that, it has been pretty tight out there. Both defences have been pretty equal, really. Some of the advantage coming through Port's runners and their ability to carry it over a line through half forward, and the ability of their defenders to get the rebound off a half back, which has been absolutely invaluable to them. Always is with Port. Girdham fights hard. Hicks goes to ground. And he's been pretty good, Hicks, although it hasn't really been a full forward's day.
No, I certainly wouldn't like to be a full forward on these under these conditions today. Very difficult for any forward.
Live at Football Park. Northern Territory are taking our coverage, so too Metro and Country South Australia, as Scott Lee gets it to the boundary line, and happily so, I might imagine. 22 minutes have gone. 6-7 plays 3-6. So very, very wet.
If it was another side, you'd say it's almost a match-winning lead, wouldn't you? But not against Port Adelaide.
Never against Port.
Opportunity there for Borlase. Chance for Schaefer. Now McGowan. Slick hands, quick foot on occasion. Green goes at it. Well done on that occasion by Mead. He risked his body. Given up by Carter. Borlase is there. They go in pretty tough now. Port Adelaide trying to lift just to get themselves squarely back in this game. They realise that 3 goals even for Port Adelaide in these conditions is a fair bit. although there'll probably be a bit of time on as well. Stephen Williams retired only recently and lost to Port Adelaide, but he retired with 269 games and 6 premierships and distinguished himself greatly, as did the whole family, in fact. Chance, Francis beautifully tackled, Scotty Lee holding the ball, and so it should be.
Francis got past one, but the tackle by Lee was superb. That's an object lesson to anyone watching at home, how to tackle and not give away a free kick.
Tim Cook snared what he had to take on the far side because there are a couple of Magpies there who just let him run away, curiously. Far too easily. Jack Cale would be in the coach's box seething over that. This is Arnold, who, as I said, has been disappointing. His competitiveness at centre-half forward is not exactly what they've been looking for. Rowan Smith. I would have thought the least number of handballs the better now. It's a quite different game. Just get the thing forward. Port Adelaide usually adapt pretty well to that.
If I can just make a point about Flood. Every contest he's been to so far, he's lost his feet. He's fallen to the ground trying to give a handball, fallen to the ground a couple of times and attempting to mark. I think staying on the feet under these conditions is essential.
It's wet.
Still stay on your feet, Stephen.
Fair enough. Schaefer. Yes, you'd hope he's got the long sprigs in, wouldn't you? Here comes Jack, and he's looking pretty trim, taut and terrific. A good summer. I remember Jack saying once that pre-season was always the best time of year. Lots of camaraderie. You never lose. He never loses anyway. I'm not sure what he'd be worried about. 10 premierships under the belt. As Greg Anderson comes off, number 26, Chris Curcio comes on.
So, Anderson on the blood rule. There you go. And made worse by a bit of water on the face, I would think, but anywhere around the eyes, if you get a knock, there's not a lot of skin or fat there, and tends to open up pretty quickly. So he might have to have a stitch or grab a butterfly and try and stop it. It's been a good play today, Anderson. Stayed over the top of the footy, worked hard. As I said earlier, took a lot of body knocks, and it's really shown him the way how to play wet weather footy.
At the 25-minute mark of the third term, you'd think Port Adelaide would have to probably end up kicking around the 8 or 9 goal mark. Now, I don't think they're capable of kicking the 6 goals between now and the end of the game, so I think Central's are pretty well warm favourites at this stage.
McGowan finds his way through. Cotter again. He's been a good player today. He's been pretty solid back there, got a lot of touches. Ball's been on the ground a lot. Smith couldn't do much with it. Players finding it hard to get clean disposals. And the picture really tells the story, doesn't it? Have a look around the grounds, and Nord have got a 13-point lead over the Panthers. The Tigers lead by 28 points, and West Adelaide marching there by 10, but not much in that game. And Michael Taylor would be looking for his first win. Opportunity coming through strongly was Flood. Couldn't take it on that occasion was Cook. Girdham. And into a pack of Port Adelaide players, and this is Wilson. Goes on the left boot, close to the boundary line, and he'd be pretty happy to see that come up.
Wilson and Cotton have had an excellent duel. Cotton as the half forward, and obviously Wilson as the half back. It's been an exciting duel, even though Vardy's on him now. It was the reverse of that situation, and they've had a real good contest all day. So Arnold in ruck, been sharing the centre forward position with Schaefer, and it's been a big ask of those two boys today. Smith well down the ground. Harada. And back to Rowan Smith on this occasion. Wants to go on with it quickly. Called play on finally. And he goes inside. This is Chris Curcio, the new boy from the Fitzroy Reserves we talked about earlier. And their other new today being Cranage. Too high on him. Yes, I would have let that one go personally. I didn't think that was too high.
The kick is poor. Finds Schaefer at half back. So a 19-point advantage to the Dogs, and they might not have expected to see themselves in this position. Port Adelaide's first outing for the year in a home and away sense. They've had a couple of trials. Last week they played Glenelg, went down at Alberton by 10 points, but I don't think they'd be concerned about that form. Curcio in there again, hands and knees, it comes out towards McGowan. Works hard, clever enough to get the boot away as the crowd call for holding the ball. Not so, Carter, eyes on the ball. Beautifully done. Swert, Carter back in there. Plenty of dogs fighting hard. They'd love another one before three-quarter time. Girdham, can he keep his feet? He can. Oh, not quite. Wakeling goes down against Paul, and it's the Dogs by 19 points at three-quarter time. "19 points separates the two sides in the replay of last year's grand final. As we've mentioned, that was a win for Port Adelaide by 48 points. And the coach of that side, or at least Central side's right alongside us. You've got to pick a winner from here, Alan. Who would you go for?
Neville, I think that for Port Adelaide to kick 5 goals, which I think is necessary to win, is going to be very difficult, seeing they haven't kicked a goal in the last 2 quarters. Yep. I think Centrals will hang on.
And I'd really have to agree with you in these conditions. Port Adelaide's their first game for the year, and despite a few trials, they've got to put some new faces in there. They've had some retirements, and even if you are Port Adelaide, it does take some time to settle a new pack down and to get people operating again. Tyler started on the bench today, and they've got Scotty Hodges at full forward. To date, he hasn't kicked a goal. Not making excuses for him, but Hicks has done a pretty good job on him. It's Damien Hicks, but it hasn't really been a full forwards day. The ball's come in pretty roughly, and at both ends of the ground, it's been pretty hard. At the other end, David Flood, the recruit from Essendon for the Dogs, is also scoreless. Chance there for Ginniver, I was going to say. That's on the ground was McGowan. He's got the footy too. Number 23, after the first round, led the stats. And I would say after today's game would probably still be there, Alan. He's had a particularly good day with the footy, hasn't he?
He's had a lot of footy, and I think that a lot of his possession's been got through the midfield, and I've been very pleased with his performance today. He's done very, very well.
Port Adelaide, how often does that happen? Not a goal in the second or third terms. Rendered, well, dare I say it, somewhat impotent forward of centre. It's just not happening for them. The Bulldogs by 19 points on the Aussie footy. Live at Football Park. Pretty good place to be up here in the back of the grandstand. It's not cold here, but it's certainly very wet. Farmers out there in rural South Australia would be loving it if you're getting some of this, I'm sure. Couple of minutes gone. Alan Stewart, what's it feel like?
Well, it's different. It's a long way away from the football up here, but it's been enjoyable, and it's been a good contest between two highly regarded sides.
Very diplomatic.
Off the ground. How about that? Thanks very much, Peter Green. Well, it's hot, you're hot, and he's had a particularly volatile day today, Peter Green. Doesn't he get excited?
Yeah, sometimes in these conditions you really got to scramble a goal from somewhere, and Green did exactly that. Off the ground, through the goals, didn't try to finesse it, and I think now that I'm sure that Port Adelaide can't come back from here.
Well, you may have seen a spectator there on the left of screen. I bet it was a Port supporter. His head was down. 3 minutes gone on ABC Sport in this last term, 7-7 to 3-6. Port haven't scored one since the 23-minute mark of the first term when Darryl Poole put one through. From a free kick, if I recall. McGowan. Lee. Oh, he's a brave man. Give him a little star in the book, because bouncing a ball in these conditions leads to Victoria Cross. Forward it goes. And Curcio takes it, centre wing. Chris Curcio hasn't acquitted himself too badly, but he's been set upon in this instance and has gone cold for holding the ball.
Since the conditions have been like this since quarter time, Centrals have been 1 or 2 players at the Port play with the ball all the time. That numbers factor under these conditions has proved to be an advantage for them.
That's a good point, numbers at the footy like that. They've tackled well.
No advantage at quarter time. The scores were tied at 3 goals all. And the Dogs had a 6-point lead at half time. And as you've just seen, a 19-point lead at three-quarter time. So pretty consistent. Chance for Arnold, but he's interfered with Poole and given away the free kick. Backward of half back. number 30. Daryl Poole sends it back towards centre wing. Underneath it, Scotty Lee puts one down what he should have taken, and taken easily. And he shakes his head in disgust. He's not happy with that, but his performance today has been pretty good. 150th game, and 32 years of age. He's been a real example. Great career with the Crows, usually out of a back pocket, half-back flank. Not very often you see him in the forward line. Alan?
No, I think Scotty is a defender, and I think focusing just purely on Central District, he'll have an excellent season for the Dogs.
I heard Jack Cale at three-quarter time break talking about the difficulties of coaching in a competition where you always have 5 or 6, maybe 7 or 8 new players.
Yes, I think what you've got to be able to do there is just have a simple pattern of play within your club, and get your juniors to do the same as the seniors, so that when people do go, you can bring junior players through into the same system.
Port crowd don't like that decision on the far side. Well, I'll take you up on that. What is the Port Adelaide style then that everybody just fits into like that?
Well, Stephen, I was at Central District for 20 years. I haven't been at Port Adelaide.
It's not very complicated though, Neville, is it?
Port Adelaide do like that long, direct style of football with numbers off the contest, and they've done it very, very well over the years.
Yes, they've been very successful at breeding the culture, haven't they? And whether you're a neurosurgeon or a wharfie, when you put the black and white on, you just fit in. Things are expected of you, and it's a success emphasis, and they do it beautifully. Ray goes to ground. McGowan loses the footy. A chance for Cotter. He's gone too, but the ball, that was Potter, I should say, was held to him. So only 6 minutes in, 3-6, 7-7, and of this game and any other that we televise around the grounds, you can buy from the ABC shop. 343-4601. Whack it on a card and get us to send it out to you. You won't have to go out with your umbrella. This is Paul as he drives towards grandstand side.
Paul Northeast hasn't done a lot today, but he hasn't made any errors either for that. Darren Smith, just a little nudge. Scott Lee's there as well. Lots of games between those boys. Darren Smith racked up 275. He's the most experienced player on the park. Only by 1, mind you, over Tim Ginniver. Still plenty of years left in them. Scott Lee, far side. Fabian Francis, nobody would beat him for pace out there, I don't reckon. Quickest man on the park. Round the body to Ray. Jason Ray's done okay. Second game. Very laconic, isn't he? Doesn't look like he'd be worried if his house was on fire. Away it goes from Girdham. And Wakeland takes it. I think he's the man for centre half forward. He's got the mobility, got the competition. Poole spoils it away.
Michael Wakeland is just so good at reading the ball, and whether in defence or up forward, he generally gets to the ball first, and that's how you've got to play football, particularly under these conditions here today.
Tim Cook and McGowan have been superb today, and have carried the footy over the line. In contrast to last week, this is Cotton. Chance. Flood goes to ground. Mead there with him. If he can get up, he's still a chance. Time. He's first. A long time coming.
Yes, I think the result is will be a Central District win here today. They're playing with a lot of confidence. There was a beautifully weighted kick to the goal square. Flood read it well off hands. Unfortunately, he was tripped there, but his balance here, kept the ball inside, stood up, had the composure to kick the goal. And that is the seal if the game wasn't over before that.
31 points the difference. Still 20 minutes odd to play. So I wouldn't argue with Alan, but I suspect that you should never ever write Port off completely. Just keep surging at you. For that, I can't see the player at the moment who's going to give them the spark. They look pretty tired. Quick kick forward, looked like Banky. Out of bounds on the full. Keep in mind, though, won't you, that Port Adelaide were thumped in round 1 last year by Glenelg. Friday night game. And what's not that hard to remember is that Port Adelaide went on to be the premiers.
AFL final scores. Adelaide over the top of Fitzroy. They'd be happy by that. Their first win against Fitzroy in Melbourne. North Melbourne over Footscray by 131 points. What a whopping.
It is a whopping, and at Cardinia Park, Geelong have beaten St Kilda by 30 points. Comfortable win, so St Kilda not going on with it. Richmond have got over the Hawks by 47 points.
Arnold and Poole in ruck. This time Arnold. Poole takes it though. This is Ginnivan. Quick high kick. Had a pop shot at goal with a left foot torpedo in the wet in the first part of the third quarter. It was a spectacular effort, but offline. So it's the Dogs by 31 points. There's a very scruffy Scott Hodges in screen, yet to kick a goal. Not many league games he's played without scoring. He's come up to centre half forward in the latter part of the game though, and got right away from the goal square. Anderson over it, couldn't grab it. Working hard Hodges though down the ground. So Schaefer and Lee combine pretty well.
Scott Lee, the further the game's gone, the better he's been. The ball goes across the line. Central's recruiting, particularly with respect to Flood and Schaefer.
Well, they definitely needed to recruit tall people, and I think Schaefer, who's rucked well today, will be a handy acquisition. And Flood, I believe, will be a very, very good recruit for them as the season goes on.
Wakeland got one in the middle. Umpire's called play on, so he wasn't going to be drawn into any of that. One of the key omissions or absences at the moment is Simon Lewis, who's had an operation on the leg, and really I think he's the man when he comes back for centre half forward. In the meantime, perhaps it's Wakeland. Cotter, I thought, was going to be killed there. Number of players over the ball. Port haven't had it forward of centre in the 11 minutes of this last term. It's Michael Wakeland who went to ground. It's one of those little punch tackles. No problem with that, as long as you're not on the end of it. This is Cook. Nothing down there except prison bars. Angove. Right to the middle of the ground where he's got Ginnivan. Perhaps not Timmy's best outing for the day. Caught cold. That was Francis. The Bulldogs are starting to ride high on the crest of the wave. They're doing it well, right up towards full forward where Flood is lurking. So too is Wilson. Attacking the football is Cotton. Inside that full forward line, the Doggies won another one. Really love to make Port Adelaide pay, because they owe them one, don't they?
Yes, but I think the important thing here is the 2 points for Central District. They understand the difference between minor round footy and finals footy, so this will just be a small step in the right direction for them, but the 2 premiership points will be valuable, particularly after losing to Nord last week.
Northeast has a running jump at it and got the knock, but it came straight down to Potter. He puts it in high towards full forward, and Mead. Take my hat off to Mead today in difficult circumstances. He's been, as a tall, he's been a pretty good player, sweeping around half back or deeper in defence at fullback. Throw in forward pocket for the Dogs. Poole takes it out of ruck cleverly a lot of times. Poole. Wakeland steers it back towards a group of players. Cotton and Cook, both left footers. Cotter, untidy footy, but you'd expect at this time of the day they're all tired. Too high and too high again, and the umpire on the blind side. So he took a fair bit at that stage, McGowan, and he doesn't like it much. I wouldn't either, mind you. Wakeland goes to ground. Green gets it up. This is Potter again, and pretty close to the boundary line. Port Adelaide defend. Underneath it, couldn't quite take it on that occasion, was Potter. Lee, players look pretty exhausted at this stage. Cotter will pop it in, and very cleverly finds Girdham.
The Girdham kick, across ground to Cotton. Left leg, good looking kick, doesn't quite find Flood. Pouncing on the football with Schwartz, so too there is Anderson, former Crow teammates. Anderson relieves a little bit of the pressure to half back. Doesn't last long though. Looks like a 9-iron that's take a tuft of turf there. Hereda finds Potter. Potter kick within about 30. Spoiled. Goes out the back though. As you said, Mead's done pretty well since being overshadowed in that first term in the ruck. John Cale attributes there what amounted to an unlikely 1994 victory over the Eagles as largely being responsible for that was Darren Mead.
Yes, he's a good athlete, Darren Mead, and I rate him very highly for Port Adelaide. There wouldn't be many games that Port play where Ginnivan, Smith, Hodges and Tyler wouldn't kick a goal, and put Darren Smith in there only for one. It's been a pretty hard day up forward. Pretty good defence by the Dogs. And those numbers spell well. Potter in tight to Cotton, and under a lot of pressure manages to grab it, and under plenty of pressure.
Cotton's impressed me on the half-forward line. He met the football very well there, played the front spot, and that's where the percentages are today. The point you make, Rocky, about the goal-scoring ability of Port, I think it's because Port have not really got the run of the footy through the midfield. And the Lees and those types of players, Darcy, that was so successful last year, I think they're missing those types of players at the moment.
Yes, and they're certainly missing Robbie West, and their best and fairest from last season as well, injured over the summer break.
Stephen Carter gave it back to the man he was having a scrap with just a moment ago, McGowan, who gets a free kick. Oh, Ricky. Lees to McKay. Been around for a long time. Darren McKay pushes it forward. Arnold. Or was it Ray? It was Ray. Quick kick forward. Number 12 is Carnage, or Cranage. It's easy to say, isn't it, Carnage? It just seems to roll off the tongue for some reason. Been a bit of carnage here today if you consider the wet weather. 8-7 plays 3-6 ABC Sport, 15.5 minutes into the last quarter.
There's a lot of footy being played, and Port Adelaide have not kicked a goal since quarter time. That's an amazing scoreline.
Yes, they were 18 points apiece, and since then Port have added just 6 points. So, start of the season, Jack Carr wouldn't be too worried. He dropped 4 or 5 on the trot mid-season last year, and he'd be looking for a hard hit out to run into form. Hodges back to Lees, well down from half back, has a pop shot at goal. It'll go pretty close. Chance for Tyler is sandwiched between Ray and Lee. There's a chance for Cranage on that occasion. He's up to the speed and not through his first. So Lee's well down from half back, and a lot of pressure still there, Alan.
Well, Central's had 2 players at the Port player with the ball, and I can't criticise that because that's been successful for them since quarter time, but they've really put a lot of pressure on the Port player with the ball. Long time coming, but at least Port Adelaide have picked one up.
So 25 points the difference. Wouldn't be a miracle for Port to get out of this, but it would be something sensational. That's the first goal since the 23-minute mark of the first term, and it's taken Cranage 16 minutes into the last quarter to get another one. In the meantime, the Bulldogs have kicked 5 unanswered goals. Crowd always love it when the umpire goes over, don't they?
Yeah, I think
Makes their day.
It's a bit of an insight into the crowd mentality, really, isn't it?
Well,
We'll have another ball up. 30 plays 55.
number 4.
And there's
on
been
screen.
plenty of them here today, though. We've had a good crowd today, in the vicinity of probably 7,000 or 8,000, I would think. Mostly huddled under the concourse, and a very wet football park. Hodges, Girdham. Through strongly was Lees. He goes to ground, or at least his opponent goes to ground, I should say. It's been pretty solid, Lees. His first quarter was absolutely superb. Met the footy at every occasion and really showed the way. Borlase inside. McKay now. Close from 50. Turns it back high. Underneath it, all Central District, and out of bounds.
Yes, you can feel a little bit of a movement here with Port Adelaide, and the crowd's feeling that as well, but I still believe Central Districts will close it down and play the percentages, which is the boundary line and the ball ups.
Yes, it's a typical Port Adelaide surge. They're having one last go at it. If they can string a couple together, might cast some doubt on the Central minds. Renowned for it, the Maggies. Into the middle of the ground. This is going to be a clash. Close your eyes. They slid in. It was Green. Needs some protection, Damien Arnold. He decided to go off and get the option instead. Flood. Beautifully weighted handball. Sets it up magnificently for Wakeland, who should kick it. Well, he kicked it offline and gets decked. Could have another crack at it. Last year's best and fairest winner. Started the year at full back, went to full forward. Coach obviously knew what he was doing, throwing him around all over the place. Where's he best suited?
I think he's one of those players you can play either end of the ground. I probably really feel at defence, across the full back line. He's a very, very good player down there, but also very handy inside the forward 50.
Hasn't looked that comfortable there today, though, has he?
Well, he's missed a bit of footy. I think he had a bit of an injury and then only had one hit out in the league side and didn't play last week because of suspension. So he's missed a bit of footy.
So a challenge for the leg from 48 metres. Heavy ball. She got some distance, all right. Just slides past the right-hand post. 8-8 to 4-6.
Michael Wakelin off a suspension from the grand final last season and but had to wait because of injury as well. So a good start for the Dogs after being run over last week in the final quarter. They'd be happy to be able to maintain their performance today as much as anything. Pretty disappointing final quarter last week against Newark. They led by 20 points at three-quarter time and got rolled by 9. Scotty Lee enjoys the victory and he's going to tell Mark Tyler all about it. He's been around the place a while. The Tigers by 42 over Sturt.
Poor old Sturt, they just can't get one, can they? West Adelaide by 16 points, so they look to have the Roosters at home pretty much on toast. The Norwood South game's the one we'll bring you shortly. It was tight at three-quarter time. So stay with us through until 5:30 this evening.
Girdham lifts himself to ground. Into time on here at Football Park and it's reasonably overcast. It's been a strangely a wet day. Wouldn't have expected this weather so early in the season. I think it's caught a lot of the players by surprise, Alan.
Yes, it certainly has, because the pre-season has been very dry and these conditions are difficult. Of a significant note is that this is a victory over Port at Football Park, and Central District know that that's important to win a game against Port at the park where the finals are played.
There's no doubt about that, and it's a very significant thing to have victories against Port during the season. Inevitably you'll play them in the finals and it'll do the morale of the club a lot of good. Fabian Francis caught, and caught well by Jason Ray, who showed quite a bit of pace.
Actually, it was James Sewell, Rocky, and he's one of the few players that has got the pace to run Francis down.
So Central withholding the charge at the moment. Benke attacks the football, can't do much with it. And I imagine that first up for Port Adelaide there'll be some very tired bodies out there. And so too for both sides, really. It's been tough, particularly in the close clashes. Some good tackling. Both sides renowned for it, really. Central actually made an art form of it last year. Potter gets it forward. Wilson. So too there, Northeast. A little bit of experience. Just threw the arms back, Stewie, and got himself a free kick.
I think the most important thing, Triggy, was that he covered the ball with his body, which you have to do.
Substantial body as well. Paul Northeast is a solid boy. And Hodges goes into clash as well. 8-8 to 4-6. A couple of minutes into time on. Pyman and Francis. Not an enviable job if you're picking up Francis at the moment, because he's really got some blinding pace. Anderson, Schwert, McGowan and Hereda. Plenty of experience. Well done by Lee to McGowan. You notice that in the heavy conditions, in the wet, the experienced players, the ones who are doing well, they've made the adaptation the best. Beautifully done by Girdham to Schaefer. Northeast. It's going to be set upon through the head back. Gets another free kick. .26 points the difference. Northeast. Not particularly conventional in the drop of the football. Central are going to have a good time here if they ultimately win this, which you expect them to at the moment. Beaten last year in the grand final. And the ball goes across the line.
Also, Stephen, Ricky McGowan's game in the centre has been an excellent performance. By weight of possessions, he must be up around the 35 to 40, and the majority of those have been effective. A very good performance under difficult circumstances.
You come to expect it from him, don't you? Week in and week out, he knocks up getting possessions. This is Francis, hugging the boundary line, left leg. As I mentioned, lots of pace. Beautiful spot from McKay. Quick kick forward, having a look at Geneva. Bit of a quieter day for him. Hicks. Tough contract, gets a free kick, but Schaefer will take it. A little Jim Steins like his Schaefer, the mobility around the ground. And normally he's a better kick than that out on the full.
Yes, he is an athlete, and these conditions probably don't suit a person of that height, but he has handled the ball well. He obviously has a lot of skill to go with his size.
Ango brings it back in. Oh! Well, I think Benke might have copped one there from Poole. Oh, that hurt. In the meantime, Girdham's got it at half forward, left leg. Awkward looking kick, takes some catching, well done by Flood. He'll have a quick look at them from about 25 metres out and misses.
Again, Flood's been very good as the game's gone on. He's worked at the front position. Here's what you're talking about, Stephen. Yeah, Pooley did clean up his teammate there. Just a little bit of bad luck.
So David Flood's off the ground. Number 11 is Andrew Balkwill. He comes on for his first run. It's a bit tough, isn't it? It's cool, it's wet. You come on at the 25-minute mark, 4 minutes or 5 minutes into time on. Wakeland does well inside half-back, covering some ground, obviously let off the leash. Schwartz on the far side. Speaking of dogs off their leash, plenty of space. Schwartzy's kick forward goes and finds Green. Elects to go across the top. Short-circuited though. They work it out. Green gets it back, and inside that 50-metre line, front spot well done by Benke, recovered very well to take a good mark. Well, it can't have been a mark because I thought he would have had to take it back. The umpire, anyway, called play on. This is Rowan Smith. Pretty quiet today. Half forward. Big bump out, saw Schaefer out of the contest. Hicks got it from Cotter. As we've said throughout the call, been quite impressed with Cotter. Wilson. Michael Wilson sidestep. The sting's just gone out of the game at the moment. As Central look for the finishing line. Well done by McGowan. Just squeezed it out towards Potter. The Potter kick forward. Hyman. Number of Bulldogs there. They could raffle it. Pretty well done though by the opposite number 11 in Hodges. Stopped the play. Schaefer. Poole. And the siren. So finally, Port Adelaide a roll by 27 points. And Alan, that's not a bad comeback for Central after being beaten by Norwood last week.
I think that's an excellent performance. A game they had to win. Particularly, you can't go into the football season losing your first two games against two teams you're going to play off against in finals. So that was a very good performance from the Central District side to win by 27 points here at Footy Park.